When driving past a vehicle that has just stopped in a parked position on the side of the road, you should A. Assume that the driver will open the car door as you approach. B. Speed up. C. Slam on your brakes. D. Assume that the driver will wait for you to pass before opening the door. A. Assume that the driver will open the car door as you approach. When passing a vehicle that has just parked parallel to the road, you should assume the driver will open the door as you approach. Use extra caution when driving near parked vehicles. When approached by an emergency vehicle that is using its siren and/or flashing lights, a driver must immediately A. Pull to the right and stop. B. Pull to the right and slow down. C. Pull to the right and turn on their vehicle's four-way flashers. D. Stop and let the emergency vehicle pass. A. Pull to the right and stop. When you are approached by an emergency vehicle that is using its lights, sirens, and/or other warning devices, you must immediately drive to the right side of the road and stop. If your car starts to skid, turn your steering wheel A. to keep the front wheels straight. B. in the direction you want the vehicle to go. C. in the opposite direction of the skid. D. in any direction. It doesn't matter. B. in the direction you want the vehicle to go. If your vehicle goes into a skid, you should turn the steering wheel in the direction you want the vehicle to go. As soon as the vehicle begins to straighten out, turn the steering wheel back the other way. This sign is used to warn drivers A. that the right lane ends and traffic should merge left. B. that the road curves ahead. C. about upcoming intersections. D. about road construction. A. that the right lane ends and traffic should merge left. This sign indicates that the right lane on a multi-lane roadway ends ahead. Traffic in the right lane must merge left.
Want to ace your DMV test? Click on the link below and get your guaranteed cheat sheet.
When driving near heavy trucks, other drivers and highway users must make allowances for A. the increased stopping distance required by large vehicles. B. the decreased stopping distance required by large vehicles. C. the decreased noise of larger vehicles. D. the increased speed of larger vehicles. Which of the following must you obey over the other three? A. a steady red light. B. a police officer. C. a stop sign. D. a flashing red light. B. a police officer. Directions given by traffic officers take precedence over signs, signals, and pavement markings. People authorized to direct traffic include police officers, fire police, highway work area flag persons, and school crossing persons. Railroad crossings should always be considered A. safe to cross, as it is unlikely that a train will be coming. B. dangerous. C. safe locations to park a car. D. a place where it is required to stop. B. dangerous. Railroad crossings are always dangerous. Drivers should always look and listen for trains approaching from either direction on all railroad tracks. Always follow the directions indicated by signs, signals, and flaggers. Never proceed past a railroad crossing until you are certain it is safe to do so. When driving on an interstate. A. Stop on the shoulder of the road if you are tired. B. You should always use cruise control. C. Signal, check mirrors, and check blind spots before changing lanes. D. You should change lanes often. C. Signal, check mirrors, and check blind spots before changing lanes. Signal, check your mirrors, and check your blind spot before changing lanes or passing on an interstate. Only stop on the shoulder of the interstate in the case of an emergency and change lanes as infrequently as possible. Cruise control should not be used in heavy traffic or under poor weather conditions. To avoid being in a truck or bus driver's blind spot, you should: A. Never pass them. B. Avoid driving alongside them and avoid tailgating. C. Flash your lights at them. D. Sound your horn. B. Avoid driving alongside them and avoid tailgating. Because a large vehicle, such as a truck or bus, has large blind spots to its sides and rear, avoid driving alongside such a vehicle and do not tailgate one. This sign means: A. Left turn yield on green. B. One way. C. Cattle crossing. D. Two-way left turn. A. Left turn yield on green. Regulation signs regulate traffic speed and movement, displaying rules which drivers must obey. This regulation sign indicates that drivers turning left at a green light must yield to oncoming traffic and may complete the turn when it is safe to do so. Larger vehicles have: A. Larger blind spots. B. Smaller blind spots. C. No blind spots. D. The same blind spots as smaller vehicles. A. Larger blind spots. The larger the vehicle, the larger the blind spots. Large trucks and SUVs have spots close to their rears that cannot be seen in their side or rear view mirrors. It is best to keep a space cushion: A. Only in back of your vehicle. B. Only on the left and right sides of your vehicle. C. Only in front of the vehicle. D. On all sides of the vehicle. D. On all sides of the vehicle. To ensure that you will have time to react to hazards on the roadway, it is best to keep a cushion of space on all sides of your vehicle. Do not crowd vehicles to your left and right sides. It is important to be alert to motorcycles because: A. They are more difficult to see than cars. B. They rarely use their headlights. C. Motorcyclists are less skilled drivers than other motorists. D. All of the above. A. They are more difficult to see than cars. Motorcycles are smaller and harder to see than cars. Because of their size, they are easily hidden in a car's blind spot. It may be difficult to judge your distance to a motorcycle and difficult to tell how fast a motorcycle is moving, so always be alert and extra cautious when near a motorcyclist. You may drink alcoholic beverages in a vehicle on a public highway. A. As long as you aren't driving. B. If you are riding in the back seat. C. If you are riding in the back of a pickup truck. D. Under no circumstances. D. Under no circumstances. It is against the law to consume or possess any alcoholic beverage while on a public road or sidewalk. Additionally, storing an open alcoholic beverage container in an area of a motor vehicle normally occupied by the driver or passenger is prohibited on any public road. Lanes of traffic moving in the same direction are divided by. Fill in the blank. Lines. A. Yellow. B. White. C. Red. D. Black. B. White. Solid white lines are used to separate lanes traveling in the same direction as well as to mark the right edge of the road. Broken white lines separate lanes traveling in the same direction and may be crossed to pass. Yellow lines separate lanes of traffic moving in opposite directions. This sign means A. Slow down if an emergency vehicle is approaching. B. Look both ways as you cross the intersection. C. Always come to a full stop at the intersection. D. Slow down and be prepared to stop if necessary. D. Slow down and be prepared to stop if necessary. Decrease your speed as you approach an intersection with a yield sign. Prepare to stop and yield the right of way to vehicles and pedestrians in the intersection or crossroad. You must come to a full stop at a yield sign if traffic conditions require it. A traffic light displaying a green arrow and a red light means that A. You may only drive straight ahead. B. You may drive only in the direction of the green arrow. C. You must wait for a solid green light to proceed in any direction. D. Vehicles moving in any direction must stop. B. You may drive only in the direction of the green arrow. If a green arrow is shown with a red light, you can only drive in the direction of the arrow and only if the intersection is clear. This sign means A. Continue at your current speed. B. You must stop ahead. C. Speeding is not allowed. D. There is a traffic signal ahead. D. There is a traffic signal ahead. This sign indicates that there is a traffic signal ahead. A red arrow displayed on a traffic light means that A. A driver must proceed slowly through the intersection. B. A driver must stop and then proceed when the way is clear. C. A driver must stop and then proceed when the signal changes to a green light or green arrow. D. A driver may turn in the direction that the red arrow is pointing. C. A driver must stop and then proceed when the signal changes to a green light or green arrow. Unless a posted sign indicates otherwise, a traffic signal displaying a red arrow means that drivers must come to a full stop and remain stopped until a green light or green arrow appears. What is the first thing you should adjust, if needed, when you get into a car to drive? A. Your seat belt. B. The steering wheel. C. Your rearview mirror. D. Your seat. D. Your seat. When preparing to drive, you should first adjust your seat to ensure that you are in a comfortable position and can see the road clearly. Adjust your mirrors and steering wheel to be effective when your seat is fully adjusted. You may not park within. Fill in the blank. Of a fire hydrant. A. 40 feet. B. 30 feet. C. 15 feet. D. 25 feet. If worried, nervous, angry, or crying, a driver A. will drive no differently than they would if they were thinking more clearly. B. can drive faster because they are more in touch with their senses. C. should take the time to focus on driving before starting the engine. D. should call a friend to vent while driving. C. should take the time to focus on driving before starting the engine. You may not be able to drive well if you are worried, excited, crying, angry, or depressed. Emotions can distract you from your driving because your mind is focused on something else. Take time to calm down and get focused before driving. You are turning onto a two-lane road divided by a broken yellow line. You know immediately that A. You are on a two-way road. B. You are on a one-way road. C. The road is under repair. D. You must stay to the left of the broken yellow lines. A. You are on a two-way road. Yellow centerlines are used to separate traffic moving in opposite directions. Broken lines may be crossed to pass slower-moving traffic when it is safe to do so. From top to bottom, the following is the proper order for traffic lights. A. Red, yellow, green. B. Red, green, yellow. C. Green, red, yellow. D. Green, yellow, red. A. Red, yellow, green. On a traffic signal arranged vertically, red is always on top and green on the bottom. When arranged horizontally, red is always on the left and green on the right. If you are turning onto a street with more than one lane traveling in your direction, you should A. Turn into the lane closest to your previous lane. B. Turn into the lane marked with an arrow. C. Turn into the middle lane. D. Turn into any lane. A. Turn into the lane closest to your previous lane. When turning onto a street with more than one lane moving in the direction that you are traveling, turn into the lane that is closest to your previous lane. Do not change lanes when turning. You may pass another vehicle. A. In a curve or on a hill because the chance is small that another vehicle is coming. B. By using the shoulder of the highway. C. If your lane is next to a solid yellow line and the passing lane is clear ahead. D. None of the above. D. None of the above. You may not pass another vehicle on a hill or in a curve because you cannot see oncoming traffic and may cause a collision. Never pass another vehicle by driving onto the shoulder of a highway. Passing another vehicle by driving over a solid yellow line is prohibited. You should honk your horn when you A. Are traveling through an intersection. B. Are passing a bicyclist. C. See a child who is about to run into the street. D. Are parallel parking. C. See a child who is about to run into the street. Your horn should be used as a warning in situations where you think another driver or a pedestrian does not see you. For example, if a child begins to run into the street in front of your vehicle, you should sound your horn. You are entering a crowded freeway. What should you do to merge into traffic? A. Use your side and rear view mirrors and check your blind spots. B. Use the acceleration lane to adjust your speed to match the speed of freeway traffic. C. Yield to traffic already on the freeway. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. Use the entrance ramp to accelerate to the speed of freeway traffic and yield to traffic already using the freeway. Before entering traffic, use your mirrors and check your blind spots to verify that you have room to safely merge. You are making a left turn from a two-way street onto a one-way street. When you have completed the turn, your car should be A. In the right lane of the street. B. In the center of the street. C. In the left lane of the street. D. In the lane with the least traffic. C. In the left lane of the street. If you are turning left from a two-way street onto a one-way street, you should complete the turn into the lane closest to the lane you have just left. When merging onto a freeway, it is usually best to A. Proceed slowly while waiting for an opening. B. Accelerate to a speed that is faster than the speed of traffic. C. Turn on your hazard lights until safely on the freeway. D. Accelerate to the speed of freeway traffic. D. Accelerate to the speed of freeway traffic. When entering a freeway, use the on-ramp to accelerate to the speed of freeway traffic so you can blend in smoothly and safely. Entering traffic must yield to traffic already on the freeway. If another car is in danger of hitting you, you should A. Sound your horn. B. Wave your arms. C. Use your emergency lights. D. Flash your headlights. A. Sound your horn. Your horn should be used to warn other drivers or pedestrians in situations where they may not see you. For example, if you think another driver is about to hit you, you should sound your horn. How can you verify that you are stopped behind a vehicle at a safe distance? A. You can read its license plate. B. You can see the ground under the vehicle's rear wheels. C. You can read its bumper stickers. D. You can count the number of passengers in the vehicle. B. You can see the ground under the vehicle's rear wheels. When stopped behind another vehicle, stay back at a distance that allows you to see the ground under the vehicle's rear wheels. This will allow you to safely move around the vehicle if needed. A space cushion will also help if you are parked on a hill and the car in front of you begins to roll backward after the driver releases the brake pedal. A single broken white line down the center of a two-lane road indicates A. Lanes are moving in opposite directions and drivers are not permitted to pass. B. Lanes are moving in opposite directions and drivers are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. C. Lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are not permitted to pass. D. Lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. D. Lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. White lines are used to separate traffic moving in the same direction. Dashed lines indicate that drivers directly next to the line are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. A solid white line on the right edge of the highway slants in to the left. That shows that A. There is an intersection just ahead. B. You are approaching a construction area. C. You will be required to turn left just ahead. D. The road will get narrower. D. The road will get narrower. A solid line along the side of the road indicates where its edge is, marking the boundary between the travel lane and the shoulder. If the edge line angles toward the center of the road, this means that the road is narrower ahead. If there are two railroad tracks next to each other, A. It is always safe to proceed after one train passes. B. You must always stop before crossing the tracks. C. When one train passes, look for another train on the other track before proceeding. D. Honk your horn as you cross the tracks. C. When one train passes, look for another train on the other track before proceeding. If there are two railroad tracks next to each other, Watch for a second approaching train after one train passes. Do not begin to cross the tracks until you're sure no train is approaching from either direction on either track. A steady green light at an intersection means that you A. Must slow down and prepare to stop. B. Must stop and check for oncoming traffic before proceeding. C. May drive through the intersection if the road is clear. D. May not turn right. C. May drive through the intersection if the road is clear. A steady green light means you may drive through the intersection if the road is clear. You may also turn right or left on a steady green light unless a sign prohibits the turn. When turning, you must yield to other vehicles and pedestrians within the intersection. If you are following a school bus or tank truck, you should A. Pass the vehicle on the right. B. Be prepared to stop at all railroad crossings. C. Expect them to drive above the speed limit. D. Decrease your following distance. B. Be prepared to stop at all railroad crossings. School buses and tank trucks carrying flammable liquids must come to a stop at all railroad crossings before proceeding. Be prepared to stop at any railroad tracks if following one of these vehicles. After stopping for a school bus that is unloading children, A. Do not proceed until the children wave to you. B. Watch for children walking along the side of the road. C. Accelerate quickly. D. Turn on your emergency flashers. B. Watch for children walking along the side of the road. After stopping for a school bus that has its stop arm extended and its lights flashing, watch for children walking along the side of the road. You should always drive with caution when driving near children. When you hear a fire engine siren behind you, you must A. Slow down until it passes you. B. Drive with your flashers on. C. Pull over to the side of the road and stop. D. Speed up and take the nearest exit. C. Pull over to the side of the road and stop. When you hear the siren of an emergency vehicle, you must pull over to the curb or side of the road and stop. What are the colors of warning signs indicating upcoming hazards? A. Black letters or symbols on a white background. B. Black letters or symbols on a yellow background. C. White letters or symbols on a blue background. D. White letters or symbols on a green background. B. Black letters or symbols on a yellow background. Warning signs that indicate approaching hazards are usually yellow with black lettering or symbols. Warning signs in work zones are orange with black lettering or symbols.